Okay, so today I'm going to be doing my buddy reads announcement, talking all the books that I plan to buddy read in the month of October. I do these videos 2 weeks in advance to give you guys more than enough time to acquire the books if you wish to join that buddy read with me. These buddy reads generally take place on my Discord. I'll have a link to my Discord in the description below, so come along and join us if you would like to. We're having a really fun time over there, so everyone's just been really amazing, so feel free to come along and join us if any of these books pique your interest, or if you would just like to join a Discord where you can talk about books with other book readers. The first book that we're going to read for the month of October is going to be the lightest of all the books, and when I say light I mean in tone, and that is going to be Bittersweet by Sarah Ockler. I was very surprised that this book was voted up. In case you don't know, over on my Discord, I suggest a number of books that we might buddy read, and I put up a poll there where everyone gets to vote, and yeah, the books that receive the most votes obviously become the buddy reads. So if you would like to get involved in the buddy reading poll, you can do that over on the Discord as well. So Bittersweet winning that poll really surprised me. I did not think this book was going to win, because literally every other book that was in the poll was of a darker tone. Maybe that's why it did win. Who knows? But anyway, this is a culinary fiction. So for those of you who don't know, culinary fictions are books that are centered around food and mostly cooking. So I'm looking forward to reading this. This book came highly recommended to me by Bookables, who is just fantastic for book recommendations. So if you would like to check her out, please do so. She's wonderful. And if you're a fan of Gilmore Girls, she talks about them a lot too. So go check her out for that reason also. I found it very hard to find culinary works of fiction because my mum and I have our own buddy read called Mum and Me, and my mum loves culinary fiction. So I found it hard to find books that center around food and cooking, as opposed to books that seem like they might center around food and cooking but are in actual fact a romance and the cooking takes a back seat. But I've been told that this book centers around cooking in a bakery, in a cupcake bakery. So I'm very, very excited to read this one. I like to go into all my books blind, so this is basically as much information as you're going to get from me about this book, but if you would like to know more, I will leave the Goodreads link in the description below, so you can click on over there and check out the premise yourself. But this is the first book that we are going to be buddy reading. Normally I have 3 books that I buddy read. This month we are buddy reading 4. So we're going to have a lot of fun. And speaking of having a lot of fun, the next book that we are going to buddy read is going to be the single longest book that I have ever read. And I am just so thankful that you guys are willing to join me on this journey. Let's take this ride together. We are going to be reading my classic book for the month of October, which is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas, I believe is how you pronounce his surname, but if I'm wrong, let me know below. This is over 1,200 pages long. So this is going to be a real treat. I think I'm going to take up most of the first week, if not all of the first week of October, reading this book. So if you want to join us for this, we're going to start it right away from the 1st of October. I don't know a lot about this book, but the little that I do know is that it involves a character who was a good character, and then something happened and he started having darker thoughts and going down a darker path, I guess. But for a 1,200 page book, I guess that's absolutely glossing over what's going on. And you guys know I like to go in blind, so that's all I know. That's probably more than I needed to know. But I am excited. This book has received a ton of praise. There is a reason why it's a classic, and I would love to discuss that with you guys once I've read it, but I'm excited. Admittedly, the 1,200 page count does scare me a bit, but I'm excited to go into this book and see what I think, so I hope you can join us. The third book we are buddy reading for the month of October is this book, The Tower of Fools by Andrzej Sapkowski. I really hope I'm saying his name correctly. I've heard multiple different ways to pronounce his first name, so to me it just reads as Andrzej, so I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm saying it wrong, again, correct me below. It's absolutely fine. I prefer if you do, so I can pronounce the name correctly in future. This is a book that I read a number of months ago. Well, didn't read, that's not true. That I picked up I started reading it and then I DNF'd it, and it was a mood DNF. I was on a downward spiral with my reading, and so the start of this book, I just had a sense that it would keep me going on that downward spiral. So I DNF'd it, ensuring that I would, in its place, pick up something that was a lot lighter, that would keep me going with my reading, and it was a good decision at the time. I have not ever, so far in my booktube career, taken a book from my DNF pile and given it a second chance, but here we are doing that with this one. Now, for those of you who have been with me for the nearly 2 years that I've been doing this channel, you may want to come back to me and talk about The Great Gatsby. I had to think of what it was called there. The Great Gatsby. And I DNF'd this book not once but twice. Okay. So I really wanted to get back into classics, and so I decided to start with this one, and it just wasn't doing it for me. I found myself getting really bored with this book, so I ended up DNFing it, I think about a quarter of the way through, and then I was talking to some of my friends at work about this particular book and saying how, yeah, it just wasn't for me, and they were all saying, oh, but you have to read this book, it's amazing, it's a classic for a reason, you will love it, you just gotta push through. And I said, okay, fine, I will. So I re-picked it back up and read to the halfway mark, and it bored me so much, no lie, I fell asleep and the book dropped to the floor while I was reading it. But the difference between this book and The Great Gatsby is that I DNF'd The Great Gatsby the first time and then re-picked it back up before I even picked up another book. So technically it was 2 DNFs in one reading, if that makes sense. With this one, I DNF'd it months ago. I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen with this. I love the cover, I love the goblet on the cover. It just makes me really excited. It has dark tones to it. It is from the best-selling author of The Witcher. I haven't read any of the books in the Witcher series, but if you have and you're excited to read this book, come along and join me. I'm intrigued to see how we're going to go with this one. If you'd like to join us, link in the description. The final book that we are going to be buddy reading for the Mr. Francy Buddy Reads in October is a book that I have read at least twice already, but I have not read this book since starting my booktube channel, and therefore I do not have a rating for this book despite the fact that I have already read it twice. This series is a rather polarizing series. Some people absolutely love this series, some people don't. I want to reread it because I haven't rated them yet. So my purpose will be go in, read them, give them a rating, then I can say I've read them and rated them. The book that we are going to read is this book, Twilight, by Stephanie Meyer, the first book in the Twilight series. I've read every Twilight book except for the most recent release. Book number 4, I forgot what it's called. The one about Edward, from Edward's perspective. I don't plan on reading that book because it's basically this book just rewritten from Edward's perspective, and I just don't get it. But if you do and you want to read that one, that's fine. But I plan on reading this one and the first 3 in the series. The basic premise of this book is that we are following a girl by the name of Isabella. Okay, Bella, for short. I have to remember because it's been a long time. We're following a girl by the name of Bella who for some reason that I don't really remember has to move interstate. She was living with her mother and father are divorced, and for some reason she has to move interstate and live with her father that I don't remember why, in Phoenix, Arizona. I hope I'm right with that, but we'll see how we go. And she ends up going to the school there, and she ends up becoming very quickly infatuated with a boy that goes to school there by the name of Edward Cullen. Turns out there is a lot more to Edward than meets the eye. I'm sure you know about this book, whether you've read it or not. I'm sure you know the premise, but for those who don't, there you go. There's more to Edward than meets the eye, and it's pretty fun fantasy. At least it was the first time I read it, so there we go. I hope that you can come along and join me if you want to, even if you've read it before. Maybe for the sake of nostalgia, you can read it again. And now for everyone's favourite game that we like to call Up, 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 Up. These are the books that we are going to be reading for the Mr. Francy Buddy Reads in the month of October. Once again, if you would like to join me for these Buddy Reads, or even if you would like to just take part in the vote, the November poll is already up. The link to my Discord is in the description below. But in the meantime, that is where I am going to leave it. I hope you're enjoying your September and looking forward to your October. Let me know one of the books you plan to read in the month of October in the comment section below. But in the meantime, letting you guys go with peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah! Thank you so much for watching. Good night, and happy reading!